Hey everyone, it's Kelly. Thanks for joining me. I am back today with a new 12 by 12 scrapbook process video for the Cut Shop, and I'm actually participating in one of the challenges that the Cut Shop has going on for National Scrapbooking Day. So happy National Scrapbooking Day or International Scrapbooking Day, depending on where you're celebrating. There are currently 3 challenges that are happening. There will be a 4th posted tomorrow. All of the information on the challenges can be found on the blog, and there are a couple different prizes up for grabs depending on which social media platform you decide you want to play on. So I'll make sure to link to that in the description box below. So if you want to head over and check out the contest rules, you can. The challenge that I'm participating in is use a cut file for a large title, and I'm going to be using the Give a Dog a Bone cut file. And as you can see on my layout, I have already cut the Rescued and Loved title in white cardstock. Here I'm just showing you the photos, and I'm going to use 4 photos on my layout today. Now I've already typed out my journaling and printed it using a wide format printer at the bottom of this pattern paper that I'll be using as my background. And a majority of the products that I'm going to use are from the Pink Fresh Studio Let Your Heart Decide collection. I do also toss in a couple things from the Pink Fresh Studio Dream On collection. I'm going to use these black alpha stickers, which are from the Dream On collection, and then I'll just toss in one leatherette sticker from that collection. And anything else that I'm using is from the Let Your Heart Decide. Now, as you can see, there is a lot of journaling on this layout, which isn't typically my style. Usually if I have journaling on a layout, it's usually just 1 to 2 lines, just summarizing what's happening in the photos. But this story was something that I really wanted to make sure that I had written down, and I'm going to spend a large majority of the video talking about the photos. I think that you can pretty much see what I'm doing as I'm doing it on the screen here. So I don't think this layout really needs a whole lot of explanation, but I do want to give some background to what this layout is about and what the journaling says. And I do want to warn you that this topic that I'm going to talk about is difficult for me to talk about. I actually tried recording this voiceover twice yesterday, and I kept getting emotional, and I feel just a little strange being that vulnerable on such a public social media platform as YouTube. So I decided to wait and try again today. So I'm going to try my best not to start crying as I'm talking, but my dogs are like my family, and this is just something that is still difficult for me to talk about. So I've talked about my dogs before in previous videos, and I've done layouts of them, but we had 3 Shih Tzus, Cooper, Bodhi, and Lucy, and we had them about 3 months after we got married. We got Cooper and Bodhi, and then Lucy came about a year later, and we lost Bodhi very suddenly to an illness in November of last year. He had aspiration pneumonia. We took him to the emergency vet within a couple hours of his symptoms starting, and we ended up going to our vet, I think 5 out of the last 7 days of his life, just trying to find something that was going to help him. We were doing breathing treatments around the clock. I mean, we were really doing everything that we could to try to get him better, but he was just too old and he did not survive. And then Lucy, she was 11. She had congestive heart failure, which we knew that she had that, and she had been doing really well on meds for a few months, and she started having some different symptoms. She started having rapid breathing, which was the same symptom that Bodhi had when he had his pneumonia. So I was a little worried that she was developing pneumonia, and we got her to the vet, and it ended up being from her congestive heart failure. She had pulmonary edema. She had water on her lungs. So we were going to try some new medications with her, and I brought her home, and within moments after bringing her home from the vet, she collapsed on the floor, and we took her back to the vet, and it was decided that she wasn't going to get any better, and we stayed by her side as she was put to sleep. So we lost 2 of our Shih Tzus within 3 months of each other, and because they are like our kids, we were just absolutely devastated. I mean, it was really different than what I expected. I knew that it would be hard, but I did not expect it to be that hard. And if you're not an animal person, I can understand that it's difficult for you to understand how hard this is, because you really have to be an animal person to understand the connection that you have with your dog or with your cat or whatever type of pet that you have that you're close with. But for us, it was like losing a family member. They were with us all the time. They were a huge part of our day. And it was very difficult to come home and them not be there. So I follow a couple of the animal shelters in our area on Facebook, and I had seen these pictures of these 2 dogs. They were litter mates, and their names were Liam and Neeson at the shelter. And I was immediately drawn to them because they were litter mates. And Cooper and Bodhi are litter mates. Cooper is our Shih Tzu that is still alive. And I knew that the bond that litter mates had because we had Cooper and Bodhi together. And we weren't actually planning on getting Cooper and Bodhi at the same time or even getting two Shih Tzus to start with. My sister, my younger sister at the time, was dating the breeder's son. My sister was in high school, and I told her that I only wanted one, and I knew they had two Shih Tzus left. So I told her, I said, just pick out one and bring it over. I said, I cannot see both of them because if I see both of them, I'll want both of them. So she pulls in my driveway and she has both of the dogs. So she had Cooper and Bodhi in the car. And just like I said, I knew that we would want them both. So we ended up getting both of them. And it was really the best decision that we made when getting the dogs. They always had a buddy and their bond together was just so strong. And I was so thankful that we did end up getting both of them. So when I saw these two litter mates at the shelter, Liam and Neeson, it about broke my heart to think that there was a good chance that they were going to be separated, that they would be adopted separately. But when I first saw them, we still had Lucy and Cooper, and the timing just wasn't right. They were senior dogs, and bringing in these large puppies just was not something that I think even emotionally we were ready for. And then to bring them in that environment with the two small dogs, it just wasn't something that the timing was right. Well, then we saw that they were adopted and they were adopted together, and we were so thankful that they were adopted together. And about a month passed, I believe, after Lucy had passed away, and I started seeing their pictures on the Facebook page again. And I thought, are these older pictures? You know, what's going on? So I did a little Facebook snooping, and it had come to be that the owner that had adopted them ended up getting a job promotion, and it was going to require traveling, and he didn't feel it was right to be away from the dogs for a certain number of days a week. So he brought them back to the shelter. Well, when we saw that they were back, I started to get the feeling that, you know, maybe they really were meant for our family. So I called the shelter because we had never adopted dogs before. We had bought our 3 Shih Tzus through a breeder, and just to see what the protocol was for adopting a dog. And we were told it could take up to a week. There was an application we had to fill out, and the application had to be approved after a vet check and reference checks. And then there was a meet and greet that would take place to make sure that the personalities matched. And I asked if we could come meet them first just to see what we thought about personality wise, because we were going to be bringing them home to Cooper, and he's a 12-year-old Shih Tzu. So we wanted to make sure, you know, really before we got the process going, that they were going to be a good fit for our family. So we drove an hour to the shelter, and we got to, you know, play around with them and pet them, and decided that, you know, we thought it would be a good match. So we filled out an application, and they were actually able to call our vet that day, and they asked us right on spot if we wanted to take them home. And we were expecting it to be a week or so before we would find out if we were even eligible to take them. But they said that we had such a good vet check that she felt very confident in us taking them home. Our vet knew us by name without even having to look us up. So she said that typically doesn't happen, and it's not normal for your application to be approved that same day and to take them home all in one day. But we felt that it was a sign and that it was going to be a great thing. So we ended up bringing them home with us that day, and it ended up being such a blessing. They are such great dogs. They do so well with Cooper, which was our main concern. We weren't really sure how they would do. We ended up changing Neeson's name to Keith. So we kept Liam, but we changed Neeson to Keith. So that is what this layout is all about. That's what all my journaling says on the layout, is just a condensed version of everything that I told you about how we came to getting Liam and Keith, and, you know, where our hearts were at the time after losing Bodhi and Lucy. And I just felt that the story was just an important one to document. You know, this is something that Aiden may be interested in 10, 15, 20 years down the line, because these dogs will be a part of our family for quite some time. They are young. They were about 10 to 12 months old when we adopted them. So they're about a year old now. We've had them for a couple months. But these photos were actually all taken at the shelter. They take photos when you adopt the dogs, and they call them happy tail photos. So they take these photos and then they post them on Facebook when the dogs or cats or any of the animals that they have are adopted. So I had asked if I could use these photos on my layout, and they of course said yes. And I am so thankful that we have these photos and that we have this story to tell, because these dogs are members of our family and they fit right in right from the beginning. So we feel very blessed that it worked out the way that it did. All right, so I am done rambling now, and I will talk about the layout a little bit. As you can see, I've created a few different clusters around the layout. So I have 2 photos positioned above the title and 2 photos positioned below. And then I did create that small embellishment cluster in the upper left-hand side of the layout. And I'm just trying to make sure that I have similar colors in each of the embellishment clusters around the page, just to help your eye dance around the layout. I did cut the title in black cardstock, and then I adhered the white cardstock to the black cardstock, but I slightly offset the two, so that way there was a little bit of a black shadow showing behind the white cardstock. I felt like I needed a little bit more black on the layout, considering the photos are black and white, and then I have that Liam and Keith title that is in black. So now I'm going to swap out a couple of the embellishments. I'm going to use that leatherette sticker, and that is the sticker that is from the Dream On collection. I'm going to move it to the cluster on the top left, and then I'm going to reposition that green circle down by the photo. I just felt like that balanced the colors a little bit more. Now that leatherette sticker, the heart in the center is really blue, but I took one of the gold hearts from the Let Your Heart Decide collection and added it onto that green circle because I didn't really have any blue going on anywhere else. And I thought that that would just be a good way to cover that up. And I did want to make sure that I had green in all 3 of those embellishment clusters. And I felt like there was a little bit of a bald spot between the photos and the title, and I wanted just to fill it in a little bit more. So I grabbed a couple floral die cuts from the Let Your Heart Decide die cut pack, and I'm just going to tuck those in there. And then I'm just adding a few other odds and ends just to fill in some areas and just to help balance the design and make sure that I have even colors going on throughout the layout. And this layout's getting really close to being finished. I kept going back and forth trying to decide if I wanted to add some hand stitching around that title, because I just felt like that white cardstock was just too stark. It would just look too bright there. But I ended up deciding just to cut the title again in a different pattern paper from the Let Your Heart Decide collection. And I just adhere it right on top of the white cardstock. And you will see that in the close-ups at the end of the video. And I know I mentioned that the challenges are all posted on the Cut Shop blog, and you really will want to make sure that you head over there because Ashley did design a set of cut files that are available for free, and they are the cut files that you see here for National Scrapbooking Day, and you can download those on the blog. So again, I will make sure that I link to that in the description box below. There's also a 50% off sale happening in the Etsy store, so make sure that you take advantage of that. And again, all that information can be found on the Cut Shop blog. Here are the close-ups, and there you can see that pattern paper that I added on top of the title, and I just really like that a lot better. And here are some close-ups of the photos of the dogs and our family, and I, again, am just so happy that this story ended up getting documented and that it turned out the way that it did. So I do want to thank you all so much for watching. I hope that you are having a great National Scrapbooking Day, and I will be back again soon with a new layout and process video. Thanks.